Hi everyone, it's Catherine and welcome back to my channel. Honestly, if you have stuck around all this time, because it's been a really long time since I last uploaded, you're a real one for that. Thank you for being here. It's been literally months since my last video, so completely understandable if you're no longer here, but if you are, I appreciate you, thank you. And yeah, thanks for sticking by me as I took a break from YouTube. I will be talking about why I've been gone, and honestly it's not that deep. I really just needed a break from YouTube, I feel like, and I needed to get my life back on track, and just am struggling with a lot of life things that people in their 20s struggle with. So that's really like the non-deep reason. I'll talk more about the details as we get into it. With that being said, I really wanted to just do a fun, easy video to ease back into YouTube because it is something that I genuinely enjoy and I have missed it since I've taken a break. So yeah, that's what this video is. Today I am just going to be filming a day of doing all my favorite things, everything that brings me joy, and not necessarily anything crazy, like just my normal routine, but things that make me happy. And yeah, just getting back into spending time with myself, feeling comfortable being alone again. I hope if you're watching this and struggling with something or kind of in the same place I am, you take this as a sign to do the same for yourself. I am gonna start the day by doing my makeup though, because I feel like my day is already 90% improved once my makeup is done. So I'm just gonna talk to you as I get ready. So I honestly don't even know where to start this conversation because I feel like so much has happened since the last time I uploaded, but I guess I should start with my decision to go back to school, which is something that I don't think that I really told you guys. I don't remember if I had talked about it before in a previous video, but I feel like I made the executive decision to do so back in March. And so ever since then, it's just been a whirlwind of like researching programs, schools, trying to get everything together for my application because I'm applying in the fall but then starting in the spring. I'm also applying to a different program than I did for undergrad. I'm doing my master's in communication, which is quite a change from my current career, but I feel like this was just the next steps that I really needed to move forward and feel like I'm getting to the place where I want to get to. And so that process has just at times been really overwhelming, to be honest with you guys. I haven't had anyone navigate that before, and so I feel like it's a lot to do on my own basically. So that's been taking up a lot of my time, which is why I haven't had as much time to vlog. So that's kind of where I've been. I feel like there's also just been a bunch of other things going on too though, like I'm moving next month, which I kind of was anticipating doing that, but also wasn't like real until this month. And so that's also stressful. I'm having to like start packing and start thinking about how I'm gonna like move all my stuff. And it's really exciting, like don't get me wrong, but I feel like the process of moving for anyone is just a lot. So that's something I have been mentally preparing for. And I'm also in search of a new job right now. That's been kind of like the icing on the cake lately. Not to say there's anything wrong with my current job. It actually is ending and I knew it was going to end around this time, so it's not a shock or a surprise at all. It's not like I got like fired or anything, but it's been not the best timing for me to have to like go back into the job market and worry about that right now and worry about like job security and income security. So of course that had to be like the culmination of just all the things that are on my plate right now. So you can understand why I have been a little bit absent lately. Oh yes, and also my car broke down like 2 weeks ago. So now I have to save up for a car when I was planning on taking a Europe trip this year, which I had to scratch like 2 weeks before it happened because of all of that. So it has honestly been such a time, guys, you have no idea. It's really hard to like obviously communicate all of this through social media, and I think these are just things I need to figure out and deal with on my own. None of these things are like objectively super bad, right? Like it could be so much worse than it has been for me. Like a lot of these changes are like good changes, but it feels scary when so much is happening at once. And so I think that's really what I'm dealing with right now, is just like the adjustment period of all of that. And so I think understandably I just needed a break from social media. Not really social media per se, honestly more so YouTube than anything else, because I think I've still been pretty active on Instagram and TikTok, but I think that's because it's easier to like hide stuff on Instagram. Like you're only posting pictures and you can't really tell what's going on in my day-to-day life on Instagram, whereas on YouTube, like I'm vlogging myself in real time. I feel like I need to put out my like 100% best self, which I haven't been feeling for the last few months obviously, and so that's really deterred me from getting back to this. But I think I needed to pick up the camera. I think my hands missed it. I feel like it was a very much needed break though. I definitely feel refueled and ready to come back. I also think the best thing has been when people have reached out since I've been gone and actually like left messages for me and been like, hey, I noticed you haven't been posting as often or recently in the past few weeks. Like, are you doing okay? I really miss your videos, which are honestly the best types of like comments and messages to get, because I think it just shows that people actually do watch and actually do care, which is so nice to even hear back from anyone on that. As I'm doing this, I realize I haven't done an updated makeup routine in a while. I think the last one I did was around Christmas time, but I do want to say, if you haven't tried them yet, the new Rare Beauty Soft Pinch blushes are like my favorite thing ever right now. This one is in the shade Hope. Like it's the same shades as their liquid blushes, but they're in the powdered form. And it's not only a blush, but it's also a highlight, which I love so much, honestly. It makes it so easy to get ready every day. And I honestly also really like how it looks when I'm super tan too. Like after I've been out in the sun all day, come back home, do my makeup, getting ready for dinner. Like for some reason on my tan, it just looks so glowy and so perfect, and I'm so obsessed with them. So if you haven't tried these yet, I highly recommend that you do. The other thing I really like about these is that they're not super pigmented, which this might be a controversial opinion, but I know most people are really into the liquid ones because they're super high pigmented. I am not that girl because I'm super pale, so these are a much better alternative for me. So if you're one of those girls who likes the more like soft, dewy look, something that is a lot more subtle and not as like pigmented, then these are definitely the ones that you want to try. Also, that was not in any way sponsored. I'm genuinely just obsessed with those. So this is the final look for today. I'm telling you guys, makeup literally solves instantly all my problems. I think now, oh, I forgot to tell you guys, it's actually the first day of summer today. So I feel like I should have like a summer theme day. I think that would be perfect. So I think I'll go to Starbucks and get a pink drink, because to me, like, that's the ultimate summer drink. And then maybe grab some food, come back. Honestly, I'm also just down to have a pool day at my apartment and read my book, because I feel like that is just like the most simple, like straightforward thing that makes me happy in my life. And yeah, I'm trying to finish this book I'm reading right now. So I think I'll do that and then just bring you guys with me for that. Okay, I think that's good. Hopefully it stays in focus. But I just got back from Starbucks and Safeway, and I did in fact pick up my pink drink, so I'm a happy girl. But look at this, it's the perfect shade of pink, and I feel like all girls, if you know, you know, like if it's this shade of pink, it's gonna be so good. This is the sign of a well-made pink drink. So let's do a little taste test, even though I already drank a good quarter of it. This hit the spot. And then I also ended up getting sushi, which is like my go-to thing. I feel like I eat sushi in all my videos. I was planning to change to go outside and tan and also eat my sushi outside. I think I might just sit in here and eat this and talk with you guys and then go outside later maybe once it cools down. But yeah, it's like literally disgusting outside. So excited. So I got like a half salmon, half tuna roll, which is very unlike me because I don't like tuna, but I'm gonna try it again and give it a second try and see if I like this one. And then this is like my toxic trait, but I can't eat with chopsticks, so I'm gonna use a fork. Don't judge me. As we're sitting here talking and then eating, I thought I'd tell you guys about a crazy idea I've had for a little bit. And I don't have it like fully fleshed out, but I feel like I could make it work. So I want to like tell you guys about it and see if anyone comments and is like interested in it. But I kind of want to start like a virtual, maybe Zoom book club thing once a month, and I would basically like host that on Zoom, and we would pick a book to read every month, and it would just be like a group of book besties that would get together. I kind of want to like limit it to just like romance books though, because I don't know why this has happened to me a lot lately, but I have met so many new people lately, and when they hear that I read, they're like, oh, I read too. But the kind of books they read are like not my definition of fun books. They're like classics and political books because I work in politics, and I'm so automatically like turned off by that. But like they're not the kind of books that I enjoy reading or talking about with people, and so I feel like that like deters me from having friendships with people that I know in my life. So I kind of want to do like a virtual thing and just have a bunch of book besties meet online once a month, like something that's like low pressure. Like once a month I feel like is doable for a lot of people, and if you miss like 1 or 2 months or only come one time or whatever, I feel like that's perfectly fine. But just like a safe, fun place that like all these, I mean, I feel like guys could come to, but I'm assuming this would mostly be girls who would be interested in doing like a romance book club. So that's the crazy idea I've had for a while. I don't know if anyone would be interested though. That's the thing, is like I don't want to plan this whole thing out and like execute it and then no one comes, or people come for like 1 or 2 months and then just drop off, you know? So tell me if you're interested, and maybe we can like connect and talk about it and plan it out. Oh my god, this is so good. So I think it's finally cool enough out to go out. This is my little suit for the day. I'm also bringing this to the pool, which is my current read. It's Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, and it's a memoir, which is really different than what I usually read. I feel like this is the first book that is a non-romance, non-fantasy book I've read all year, so very, very different, but I really love it so far. It's a memoir about herself, and she just writes about like her navigating her 20s, navigating love and relationships, but also like finding self-love and confidence, which I think are really big things for people in their 20s. And so I think if you're a woman in her 20s, you should really read this. I think she just has a lot of like insight into what it's like. I feel like a lot of us have dealt or will deal with a lot of these issues, and I just feel like it's really insightful and relatable to see another woman's perspective in that position. So that's why I really like it, and I recommend if you're in that position of like growing up having to become an adult in your 20s, because I think she shares a lot on that. So I don't even think I lasted 40 minutes outside. That's how hot it was. It was like the worst ever. So I'm back in my apartment. I wanted to update you on where I left off in this book because I got a decent amount of the way through, but there was one quote I wanted to share because I feel like literally anyone who has ever been in their 20s and is moving out of their like first childhood or family home into like their own place for the first time can relate to this. To this day, I have never ever been able to get over the fact that I don't need to drink gin from shampoo bottles anymore. That there is no lights out, that I can stay up watching films or writing until 4 a.m. on a weeknight if I want to. I am relieved, energized, invigorated that I can eat breakfast foods for dinner, play records really loud, and have a cigarette out of my window. I still can't quite believe my luck. My entire life as a young 20-something adult was lived by Macaulay Culkin in Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, when he finds himself booked in at the plaza and orders mountains and mountains of ice cream from room service and watches gangster movies. And I don't know why, it's just like something about that quote that like everyone has felt in their life. Like you're alone for the first time, you can literally do whatever you want, you can like go get a career, you don't have to get a career, you like start to figure life out, figure out who you want to be, where you want to go, if you want to travel the world, like just the fact that you have so much freedom for the first time. I feel like the moment I got that, like that moment is something that I'll never forget, and I don't think it's something that anyone ever forgets. It's like when you have that control of your life for the first time. And she just talks about how like she grew up having a very strict upbringing and going to boarding school, which like I didn't go to boarding school or anything like that, but I will agree with like the strict upbringing and just relating to the feeling of not having any control in your life. And so I feel like adulthood for me has been, for the most part, a really, really good and positive thing, as much as like we talk about the downs a bit too. So since I'm sitting in my little book corner already, I thought I'd talk about some of the summer romances I've read this year, since I haven't been making book videos in the past few months. These are all like relatively new releases, I think except for one, but I read them as soon as they came out, and I'm absolutely obsessed with all of these books. So the first one is This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune, which you may or may not know is one of my favorite go-to authors. She also wrote Meet Me at the Lake and another summer romance that I can't remember right now, but they were both really, really good, and that's kind of her thing. This one is about two characters named Lucy and Felix. Felix lives on Prince Edward Island, which is a very like touristy island. Lucy and her best friend are flying there to have a vacation, but her best friend's flight ends up delayed, so she ends up having to like figure out what to do for the first day. She ends up going into an oyster bar slash restaurant kind of place where she meets Felix, and then they end up hooking up and having a one-night stand that day. The next day, she discovers that Felix is actually her best friend's brother, which is, suffice to say, very, very awkward and creates a lot of tension already from the beginning. So they agree to like never hook up again, not explore any additional feelings. However, that proves to be really hard because she and her best friend periodically go back to this island, and every time that they do, they just end up getting drawn to each other, and so that overcomplicates things. Their feelings get involved. At the beginning of this book, I was actually not really invested because I thought this was going to be like an instant love story, just the fact that they hooked up from the very first time that they met. So that kind of deterred me, which usually like that's kind of a turn off for me. But the further I got into this book, I feel like I learned how their feelings for each other developed. Like the more and more you read, it alternates between present and past. So you're seeing how their relationship just like evolved from that night. And there's so many like cute little details to it. There's one night where they end up being together, but the next morning she like wakes up to find her fridge stocked, and he stocks her fridge with all like her favorite foods that he knows that she likes. And to me, literally made my heart explode out of happiness, because that is one of my love languages. Just that concept of to be loved is to be seen. Like the fact that he paid attention to all those little things and all those little details just literally made my heart so happy. And I feel like that's when kind of the gears started turning in my head of like, oh, he actually does have real feelings for her. And she kind of is oblivious to it at first, but then towards the end starts to realize that she literally has been in love with him this whole time. If you're looking for something fast and fun, I feel like this is the perfect summer read for that. The next two books are both by Abby Jimenez. I have entered my Abby Jimenez era, and I don't think I'll ever leave because I'm absolutely obsessed with both of these. The first one is Just for the Summer, and this is the new release that she just came out with a couple months ago. It's about two characters named Justin and Emma, and they are both convinced they have this condition where anyone who dates them after like breaking up with them will go on to find their true love. Like it's happened with every single person that they date. The guy Justin ends up posting about like this theory on a Reddit thread, and that's where Emma finds him. And then she starts messaging, they message a little bit back and forth, and then someone, I think one of them, makes the joke of like, oh, if we date then the curse will be broken or something like that. And so they end up deciding to experiment and test this out. Emma and her friend are travel nurses, so they move into Justin's hometown, and her and Justin like kind of date, not really having expectations that it's going to work out or anything like that, but they're both very pleasantly surprised when they just start to be really drawn toward each other and really like each other. It's kind of complicated though. Emma has like a really like just bad history with commitment, and has to do with like her family. She has like family issues with her mom never staying around, and so we see how that impacts her relationship with Justin. And yeah, it just gets a little bit complicated from there, but it's a really good story. I will say I like the other one of the books that I read by her a lot more than this one, but this one was also still really good. Second book by her is called Yours Truly, and it is absolutely one of my favorite romances of all time now. It's about two characters named Brianna and Jacob, who are both doctors in an ER, and Jacob is kind of like a new doctor that's coming into the ER, and Brianna hates him because she thinks that he is going to get a promotion over her, which he actually has no idea about, but that's besides the point. So it begins with them having kind of like an enemies to lovers dynamic. Like she thinks that he hates everybody, and so she automatically kind of hates him. She has a lot going on in her life. It's very complicated. And then I honestly don't remember exactly how they come to start talking, but I think she has like some kind of blow up at him, and then she ends up finding out that a lot of the things that she thought were true were not true. So it's kind of the miscommunication trope. And I will say, Jacob, one of my favorite characters that I've ever read about to date, because he has a lot of anxiety and he's just a very like shy, introverted person, and I have never related to a character so much. He likes Brianna, but he will never make a move because he is just like shy and awkward and thinks that he like can't have the confidence to go after a girl, and it literally just made me like, it made my heart throb. So I absolutely love him. After her blow up, they end up having a really good relationship because he writes her a letter basically apologizing for the miscommunication, even though he didn't even do anything, which is so like wholesome. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't even have words. But they end up just writing letters back and forth to each other, which I think is the sweetest thing, and such like a beautiful love language, like having someone write you handwritten letters. So they end up falling for each other. The guy also has like panic attacks, and Brianna helps him through his panic attacks, which I also think is like a really super sweet thing. I love that there's like mental health representation in this book, because I feel like that's something that I rarely read, and I feel like the book really takes it seriously. There's like notes from the author in the back about how she like researched all of what happens in the book, which I really like too, the fact that she was actually informed. And so this ultimately was one of my favorite books this year. I think it'll be in my top 5 for sure. The last book I want to talk about, I read a while ago, so I honestly don't remember all the details, but I'll try as much as I can to relay them to you. It's Funny Story by Emily Henry, who's also another go-to author that I usually buy from. I will say this wasn't my favorite book by hers. I would probably put this one last out of all the books I've read by her, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with it. It just was a book where I didn't feel like the connection between the characters was as strong. It kind of felt like it moved too fast and was a little bit rushed, and nothing like I haven't seen from her before. So I was just the tiniest bit disappointed. But honestly, if you'd never read a book by her and you picked up this one, I don't think you would be disappointed, because you wouldn't have anything to compare it to. So for me personally, just because I've read her others, I feel like this was a little bit of a letdown. But if you haven't, maybe this might be the starter book that you need. This book is about 2 characters named Daphne, and I honestly don't know who the other guy was. Oh, it's Miles. So Daphne and Miles, who meet because Daphne's ex-fiance cheated with Miles' ex-fiance. So Miles' wife and her husband cheated together. She ends up finding out. That obviously breaks up both marriages. And so Daphne and Miles, the exes who got cheated on, end up in a really awkward living situation that neither of them really wants to be in, but purely just because they have like nowhere to go. Like the house that Daphne and her ex-husband lived in was all in his name, and so she's basically having to like rebuild her life from scratch. But they end up falling for each other because of the situation they've been put in. Obviously they already have like a common understanding just of like being in the position that they're in, and so that's kind of where the story takes off from there. I remember this being a really controversial book though for some people, because some didn't like the main male love interest, Miles, just because he seemed a little bit like rough around the edges. I will agree with that, although I will say it's kind of understandable given his position and given like what happened to him. So it's kind of like a hit or miss as to whether you like his character or not. For me personally, I just didn't feel like their connection was very strong, and it kind of felt like any other Emily Henry book I'd read before. So for me, this was a little bit lower on my rating. Again, like not because it wasn't a good book, but just because I have a lot more to compare it to. Hi guys, it's actually a few days after that last clip, and that was basically the end of the video. I just now, as I'm editing, realized that I forgot to film an outro, so consider this your outro. I didn't really do anything after that. I literally went to bed and I think I fell asleep, but it was still a really fun video to film, and I honestly expected it to be a lot more harder to get back into YouTube, but it was surprisingly easy, so I feel like that just shows that I was meant to come back eventually. I hope you really enjoyed that video, and I'll have more fun videos coming. Now that it's summer, I have a lot more time to vlog, and I also feel like that's the time when I have the most fun with vlogging too, so lots of fun things planned. I do have a Tortured Poets Department Songs as Book Recs video coming, which is an idea I've had in the back of my mind for months now. Thank you guys so much for watching my comeback video. I'll link all my socials below if you want to keep up with them. And don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video very soon. Bye!